Hey, it's Leslie from Silent Rolling Acres. I'm a farmer in northwestern Wisconsin, and this video is part of a farmer well-being and mental health video series that I've started recently. It also is to follow up with an article I recently wrote about how breathwork, the act of breathing, has really helped me as a farmer work through stress, everyday stress as a farmer. As you know, if you farm, there's a lot of stress that can come on just with the nature of the work we do, but also dealing with some personal health issues, dealing with a death in my family, and also being a caretaker for my parents as well from a distance. But anyways, that's kind of where this is at. But I wanted to share, this video's purpose is to share some of the different ways that you can do breath work. And this is, again, just practicing breathing. But my other video talks about different types of breathing if you're looking for something more advanced. Now I'm going to share a little bit about different ways that you can sit or be in a sitting or a resting position for doing your breath work. And really, you can do breath work anywhere you're at, but these approaches can also be helpful as well. So I have a few props that I'm going to show you. Call them props, but they're really just like everyday life stuff. So I have a beach towel. You can use a bath towel. Any towel works, even a blanket. I have a couple throw pillows for my couch. They're my couch. If you are married or they're your mom's, maybe ask if you can take them outside. I probably would take them outside, but for the purpose of demonstrating, I have them, and I have a kitchen chair. So you can kind of think about like how these tools work, and you can modify them as you need be for other situations and settings. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is I'm going to kind of work through different ways to use a towel to help you with how you might position yourself for doing breath work. So one thing I like to do is fold it up and create a little bit of a pad, so it can be a cushion for when you're practicing your breath work. You can sit, and you're going to want to sit upright when you do it, no matter whether you're sitting down or in a chair. The blanket can actually elevate, not only give you cushion, but elevate you a little bit. And I'm actually, even though I recognize that everybody can do pretzel legs, it's even kind of harder for me as well. So my knees pop up. So one thing I can do, I'm just going to modify right now, is you can grab a pillow. I'm just going to sit sideways now. And you can do the same seat, and it's actually going to make doing the pretzel sit a little easier. And again, you don't have to do pretzel legs, but it is an option. If you scoot forward, it's going to make it a little bit easier. You can also, I'm going to sit this way, adjust now, and you can, have one leg bent in, one out. If you're comfortable like this, you can do this as well too. Another approach that can be really helpful with doing a seated pose on the ground with your props or without is to sit against the wall. And so you can sit just like this. You want to have an upright back. You can lean back. Your legs can be out. You can sit pretzel leg like we talked about, like this. The key is you want to be comfortable and alert. You don't want to be uncomfortable. So if pretzel legs don't work, that's totally fine. I recognize that as we age, it is harder and harder to do, so you do what makes sense. So then when you sit, I'm going to just adjust this a little bit more here. So again, alert, upright. You can place your hands on your lap like this. You can lay them at your sides. And then you can just start to focus on your breathing from there. You don't want to put a lot of effort into how your body is positioned, because that's going to make, when you're trying to focus on your breath work, it's going to be hard. You're going to be thinking about your positions or how you're seated. And you know what? It's natural some days, or even over time you get a little better with it, to focus on your comfort of how you're sitting or positioned while you're breathing. And that's natural. Over time it gets easier, and sometimes there'll just be some days where that's where you focus on. So that is one example of using a blanket or a pillow doing a seated pose. on the ground. Now the next one I'm going to demonstrate is using a kitchen chair or any type of chair, like a straight back chair. I'll do this in 2 different positions. And then you can also replicate this sitting in a truck or a tractor cab. I use my gator a lot on the farm. So again, this can be the same type of approach as well. You just kind of think of it in a different construct. So what you want to do is you want to sit upright, your feet on the ground. And if your feet dangle, if you're at home, it's a little different if you're like in the tractor cab or things like that. But if your feet dangle, you can always put a blanket on the floor or a pillow and just rest your feet that way. If your chair doesn't have as much support in the back, you can also think about putting a pillow behind your back like this. I'm gonna move around now. This might be in the case too if you don't have access to an upright chair. Using a recliner could be an option. Sometimes recliners are a little too soft. Doesn't mean you can't do your breath work in them, but sometimes they can kind of encourage too much comfort and you want to relax and fall asleep. If you're looking to fall asleep, that might be a different story, so that's fine. Again, use what works for you, and if that's the type of chair that works for you, awesome. But sometimes in some chairs you may need something in your back, so a pillow back here or even a folded blanket can help provide some support if you need it in your lower back. And again, you can also even use it too as a cushion in the chair. But then when you do your breathing exercises, you want to be alert, upright, and then where you don't have to put a lot of effort into how you're sitting. And then you can focus on your breathing. So typically hands on the lap can work really well. You can just dangle them at the side. That's no problem either. So that is working with the chair. And next I'm going to show you a position laying down. And I know I talked about not wanting to be too relaxed that you fall asleep. This one it can be the situation, or it can be a possibility, but not totally likely. Ways it might make it a little easier to see. So you can do this in the porch, on the ground, in your bedroom, a quiet place. Heck, you could even bring a blanket outside and do it right in your grass. So to practice your breath work laying down, another approach is laying down. So you can lay down. I like to have my head, on something that's comfortable like this. If you want, you can even roll up the towel to give yourself a little extra cushion. But you want to have essentially a flat back. It's not going to be like, you're not going to be laying down so comfortable like you're in bed. And then your legs are going to be slightly, so they're not going to be totally together. You want to just have them slightly out where they're comfortable and just let them flap to the outside. Your hands can just be out like this, or you can lay them down like this. I prefer to have them like this. And then you can just focus on your breath. So a few modifications with this. You can fold up your towel like I talked about with your head to give it, either go underneath your neck or underneath your head, just for a little extra cushion. If you want to give your back a little bit of relief, you can take your pillow and just set them underneath your knees, and that will just give you a little bit of relief underneath here. You can also use another towel or blanket and roll them underneath your knees just like this. And so that's an option as well. Those are just a few examples of ways that you can position yourself while you're doing your breath work to really start to get the optimal benefits of your breath work. But again, you can do them wherever you're at. I was just talking to my mom the other day, and she was actually practicing her breathing exercises while she was driving. She wasn't in a super stressful situation where she shouldn't have been on the road, but she also had been going through a number of things that morning that were a little bit more stressful than usual. And the breath work, just deep breathing while she was driving, made a big difference. Obviously, in that case, she wasn't closing her eyes or getting in the right position. So she was still safe to do her normal activity in life, but it was a good example. It's a good example of how you can use breath work anywhere at any time, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you are taking some time to step aside intentionally and it makes sense, these are some ways that you can position yourself in a seated or resting position to do your breath work. So if this is the first video you've watched in this series, I have another video on farmer wellness and mental health that is focused on 6 types of breathing exercises for everyday stress, and that will be in the same playlist as this video as well. I'll be sharing more videos along these lines with farmer mental health and strategies for everyday wellness on my YouTube as well, so we'll continue to follow along for future ideas and resources and support. And also, remember, all of this takes time and it builds on each other, and the more you do it, the more it can really help with your everyday life. It's not a substitution by any means. If you have other mental health challenges or wellness challenges you're dealing with, always make sure you seek out more help, but it can be a really great tool in general as a preventative nature, or to supplement other resources that you might utilize for your well-being. If you know anybody else, another farmer who might find this series helpful, I encourage you to share it. I really want to help other farmers and folks who work in agriculture live their life with the same passions that they have for the industry we're in, but not have be at a point where it really weighs you down as an individual. Have a great day.